The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Foundation with Heart Grant is brought to you by Alive, Commonwealth Bank, J.S. Johnson, Mobile Garage Technologies, Platinum Pastries, Rev Bahamas, Ron's Electric Motors, the University of the Bahamas, and Wendy's.
The aftermath of every social revolution brings about change. Cultural norms and landmarks shift as our minds and hearts expand beyond the familiar. To everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose in the land of the living. This is our time to renew, revive, and restore the hope lost to the busyness of life. This is our time to dig again and rebuild from the storms of our past on a solid footing that holds. Welcome to The Foundation.
The Foundation. Foundation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant, your company, The Foundation. Really chopping it down. Today is the Tuesday, the 21st of February. We are almost out of this month. This is crazy. Like, we would feel like it's like, another 10 days to kind of go. But, February's a short month. And I know you're kind of getting ready to get out of here. Is it so that you guys from government, you're going to get paid on Friday? Must be a really short month. So I'm excited to be here with you today. Today, we continue our conversation. In the interim, while we wait for our guests, because we're waiting on our guests, I have Obi Roberts going to be coming in the studio with me today. And it's not going to be this, stereotypical kind of precast conversation where, Obi comes in with his political cap on. You know that he is one of the vice chairmen, if I'm correct, one of the vice chairmen for the Progressive Liberal Party. But today I wanted to take it for a different perspective. I really wanted to have conversations with him about how it was sitting at the feet of his father, right? And what he would have seen in terms of the relationships and how the architecture or the blueprint for the country was laid right there. Because he was in close proximity. And I know that probably gave him a great deal of his aspirations politically. So I want to talk about that with him today. We're going to wait for him to be able to get in the studio. So before he gets here, there's a couple of things I want to be able to kind of lay out. Yesterday, I thought it was a great conversation. If you just tuned in, if you had an opportunity to listen to the show, either yesterday live or last evening, being able to listen to the show. And if you have not, please go back and check the thing out. GuardianTalkRadio.com, GuardianTalkRadio.com. You can be able to find out exactly what's what with that and really dive into it. I want to talk about a few things, right? Just a few things I want to touch yesterday. I thought it was a very, very good thing, all right? I thought it was a good show, all right? I got a couple calls yesterday and say, Howard. You know George Lai, right? So I said, what? I said, what? Why would you say that? And, it's only his counterparts, his peers. These are people his age who would have been there and who has a different view of what the story was. But I thought it was a very good approach, and he was very good in terms of how he laid it out. I went with him. Sometimes we have a kind of preconceived notions about people based upon the story that history tells of them. Talk to me. Let's just be very clear about that, right? I've always used him in analogies to talk about his aspirations and desires to be able to move and continue to move towards politics with absolute disregard as it relates to his position in these particular spaces, right? So his position with what was happening with the commission inquiry. But the truth of the matter is that his conversation yesterday really was a mind-blowing thing. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Let me read a couple of these things before we get out there. It says, this Friday is the first ever 242 day. The 50th Independence Secretariat is encouraging you to wear your national colors, enjoy Bahamian dishes, participate in cultural activities, enjoy authentic Bahamian art and music, and show your Bahamian pride. Share your photos and videos using the hashtag 242day and celebrate. Hashtag celebrate Bahamas, right? 242 Day is on Friday, and every Friday, the 24th of February, starting the 24th of February, on the second month. The 24th day of the second month, which is today, right? Show your Bahamian pride, wave your flags, put your flags in your car, wear your Bahamian flag colors, eat Bahamian foods, create and listen to Bahamian music, donate in sequences of 242. Do something 242 times or 2.42 times each, right? Merchants consider pricing items $2.42 or $24.20 or 242 each. Let's have some fun, guys. Well, you know what's good. Who's gonna have fun is if 242 fall, and and that'll be the issue that they have to deal with. Guys, we're in here, man, and I just want to kind of do this to you. My guest just kind of walked into the studio, so I'm very happy to do that. And he sat with me many times. I told you that before. You would have heard him with his hat, his political hat on, being able to talk about the contrast between his party and the party that opposes, and talking about why the Progressive Liberal Party is the party for the people, and being able to do that. He sat on many of my spaces here on this show, on this radio station with me, with Dazzy on Rush Hour, and another space that I was on, and other spaces. So I've always enjoyed him being able to sit with me and be able to talk to these things. And you know what really fascinates me is that his view, because I know that he has a unique view, and I always wanted to kind of dive deeper into that, about how it was growing up at the feet of politicians, those persons who were the architects of this country. And today we're going to dive into that conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, with me today, sitting with me, I don't know if he's going to be able to bring his political cap with him, but it's my very good friend, none other than Obi Roberts. Obi, my brother, it is so wonderful to have you in the studio with us today. What's happening with you?
Man, good afternoon,
I ain't seen you in a little while since the PLP went and talked to me.
Good afternoon, Howard. Good afternoon, Bahamas. Man, it's always good to be back and sit down and talk to you. Yes, it's been some time, Howard.
It has been some time, my brother, and you're back in business.
Yes.
How are things with you?
Man, Howard, I'm thankful and grateful, you know. It's a new day. It's a new way.
It's a long new day.
Yes. And many have been asking and screaming and demanding for a new day. And that change came in September 16, 2021. Now this New Day government has pulled up its sleeves and has gone to work. We have accomplished some stuff, and we have a lot more to get done. There's a lot of work to get done out that way. These are some unprecedented, challenging times for many Bahamians in the country as a whole. But we are slowly, gradually getting back to some normalcy, pre-COVID aspects right now. But we have so many different things, so many different issues that we have to address. Mm-hmm. We had a very successful CARICOM heads meeting last week. It was very well attended, very impressive. I had the opportunity to go out that way myself. Mm-hmm. Saw some people internationally that I knew who came down for it. And you know what it is? This tells you there's a lot of business in the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people attracted to business, doing business in the Bahamas.
It also tells me that there is a unifying force that we need to be able to get closer in terms of being able to rectify. That's crime. A great deal of persons, and though they put Haiti at the forefront, having conversations of a Haitian-led solution, which I thought was sort of oxymoronic. If this is a Haitian-led solution, why are we having a conversation about it? But I'm not. That's not here or there. What I'm saying to you is that there's crime in Trinidad and Tobago, there's crime in Haiti, there's crime in the Bahamas, there's crime in Turks and Caicos, there's crime, and all these crime elements are led with guns. And so we need to be able to bring our heads together, and not just in the traditional form, but really find real solutions and put boots on the ground and make some things happen. So I'm hoping that the next tier of conversations that they have, I think they're supposed to meet in Haiti. CARICOM heads were indicating that they had a subcommittee that was going to meet in Haiti. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping that could lead to some significant solution and being able to make some things happen.
Howard, I certainly hope so, because this is not the first, second, or third, or fourth time that these major calamities have been taking place in Haiti. Mm-hmm. We sympathize with what's going on in Haiti. All of the turmoil, the violence, the crime. And then also we've seen many of the persons fleeing their country for a better way of life. Mm-hmm. And we've seen them go on to many other the Caribbean our neighbors in the Caribbean, including us. And it is a very sensitive subject, as we would like to help the country of Haiti.
We need help too.
But like I said, right
should
now,
stay.
we are the government of the Bahamas' first priority
Is
is
to
to help Bahamian people.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so that is the thing there right now, and we have our own issues and concerns
Yeah.
that Bahamians would like to have addressed. Help us deal with home base first, and then if you have anything else, that yes, we'll help the outside, because we have always been very much compassionate people.
Yeah.
But we have our own issues that we need to be addressed right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to. I want to talk about that, and we're going to take our Friday show to kind of chop that down, ladies and gentlemen, because I have ingested a great deal of sort of the speeches and whatnot, and contrasted with some reading. So I want to have a conversation with you guys on Friday, on our Friday conversation, to really be able to chop that down and open the lines up. But today I wanted to talk with you, Obi, more specifically about the idea of the entire show. Now, the show is called The Foundation, and in the year of Jubilee, in the year that we're celebrating our 50th anniversary here in the country, I wanted to kind of travel back 50 years. I wanted to travel back to the inception, maybe even to your birth, and being able to see those movers and shakers in your home, and seeing the blueprint kind of roll out for what the country would be. I wanted to talk to you about seeing things through the eyes of your father. What would you have seen during that time? Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, and you lived under a rock somewhere, you know that his father is the late, great Big Bad Brad. Bradley Roberts, the former chairman of the Progressive Liberal Party, and chairman extraordinaire in many, many, many respects, really being able to create a template for what chairmen can be. And the template has been duplicated and manipulated over political divides. A lot of persons seek to kind of brand themselves with this kind of a fiery brand that your father had taken on for some time. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the inception. At which point did you have a sense of consciousness to understand what was happening in the country?
Howard, I'll say this to you. I can recall my father's second time offering himself. That's when he ran for the second time in Shirley. That was in 1982. He ran against Pierre DePuche in Shirley. And he lost. He lost against Mr. DePuche, but the PLP was reelected as the government. And then some few months later, the unfortunate passing of Mr. Shadrach Morris in Grantstown led to the opportunity of my father receiving the nomination and was elected in Grantstown. And from that, he was able to serve 25 consecutive years to make his contribution in politics within the halls of Parliament very successfully. One of the things, he has come from humble beginnings. And one of the things when he was able to obtain some success with him and his partners was always to give back to the less fortunate, because he himself at one time was in that position. And with that also, he'll also speak about the situation when he was going to St. Augustine's College. But he could not continue at St. Augustine's and ended up going to Western Senior. I think that's what he told me, because my grandparents at the time couldn't afford it. But it still did not derail him from continuing on with his studies. At the age of 16, he went to work at Batelco, and he developed a niche for business. And he told me he used to sell vegetables. He used to sell vegetables at the age of like 15, 16 on Augusta Street where he grew up. And he was saying that that's where he got his entrepreneurial spirit from. And one of the questions I asked him when I was much younger, in terms of when the companies were starting to evolve and develop, not to where it is today, but you could see that they were growing legs, what was the purpose of it? What was the reason? He just simply said...
Now, what age are you at this point when you asked him this question?
I was like 14, 15. I was at 14, 15. And he was primarily, his response was they just wanted to show the country that a group of young black men could pool the resources and own businesses, successful businesses. But to this point, they did not imagine that it was going to
Evolve
amass.
into what it is.
Right. That
Yeah.
is no ways that, but through hard work, dedication, and remaining committed to one another and to the business, this is what they were able to accomplish.
So you give us all the way, you shot quick to 14, 15, but I want you to take me to Obi Roberts at 5, at 7, at 9. What was the environment in the home? Because there's a lot of chatter that exists in the street about who persons are. And history has a way of being able to manipulate it. You know, what they say for us locally is that if they like you, they lie for you. If they don't like you, they lie on you. And so I wanted to get sort of the conversation and the idea of what existed at that time for your father from the horse's mouth. I know you would have been there. So tell me about it.
At 5 years old, I can recall because he used to drop me to school when I used to go to Savia's lower school. And
So that he get money now. Talk to me. Let's be very clear about
well,
that.
he
Come from Augusta Street. He doing well.
Yeah, but this is in the mid.
He didn't sell all the fruits.
Well, he was the managing director at that time of Bahama Blenders, which became.
So he leave from
Burns's-
Betelco.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
He was the managing director of Bahama Blenders, which became Burns House, which is now 700 Wine. So with that, I remember he used to drop me to primary school, and also at times when I used to get picked up from school, occasionally I would go by his office. So you would observe certain things, meet certain persons as a little boy, and interact with them. And then I remember a picture of him on, I can't remember the name of the booklet, but he had it in his office at the time. I think it's Businessman of the Year, his position at Bahama Blenders, and his progress through that time to the liquor industry. And then when he would first receive a nomination in 1977, because like I told you, he ran 2 times unsuccessfully. And surely at that time, he was the last person to run against Pop Simonet, but he lost. That's Roland Simonet, excuse me. And but it didn't derail him. And the group continued on. I remember going with him to the late Philip Pender's house and watching a boxing match with Muhammad Ali versus Larry Holmes. Mr. Ali lost that fight, but the communications and that ensued. And you listen and you learn, you talk somewhat, and then traveling with him when he used to go to Three Queens on Village Road. That was the place to be. That was owned by Urban Knowles. That's where you had many of the politicians and business personalities used to be there, and go with him Saturday mornings for boiled fish.
You couldn't shake this if you tried. You couldn't shake this thing if you tried. If you tried to be able to detach yourself, you know, people just get to the positions, boy, I ain't bought in politics. You couldn't shake this so deep in you. And you know the players on both sides, because these were also aspiring people in these places who wanted to be around the movers and shakers. So you get to meet a great deal of people.
Yes, and yes, that is so. And when you go there, and then I could recall as a little boy going with him to the Exuma Regatta, and you have the opportunities to talk to Salinan, even though Salinan at that time was our neighbor in the same neighborhood we lived in, but you met other political personalities. At that time, that was Livingston Coakley, who was in Exuma. You meet business personalities like Nigel Bowe from Exuma, Mr. George Smith.
George sat with me yesterday. Yes.
Many of the individuals down there. And as you alluded to, even though you sat on the political divide, you had persons who friendship predated them entering into politics.
Yes.
So you had a chance to be introduced to them, or this is my son, this is so-and-so. Have the opportunity to talk to them briefly and everything else. But at that time, as a little child, as your parents and grandparents say, you have to listen. All right, but
To be seen and not heard.
Not to be heard, exactly. So you take
Children
in,
are to be seen and not heard.
Exactly. So you take in all of that information as a little boy. But it did not dawn on me until I got older that the persons or what they said to me and communicated, how brief it was and everything else, was a lot of valuable information and interesting information, and also giving an opportunity to understand the personalities of the person. who were in the political climate back then. Many of them were nation builders and were very adamant in terms of the issues that were hot button issues back then that they would like to see to get done and resolved. Some still exist today. We still had an immigration crisis that took place. Crisis was a major issue back then. It was so many, but then you had a country that was making progressive steps. Coming from the 60s, educational opportunities, business opportunities. You had a lot of small businesses that are open up, mid-sized businesses. So you had a lot of Bahamians who owned businesses in the 80s. Persons had 2 and 3 jobs back then. And we had a very, very strong economy. Our middle class was very, very strong.
Middle class existed.
Yes, very strong.
But you say it as though middle class is very strong, as though it's weak now. I am of the opinion that it's been eroded entirely.
Yes.
And I think we need to do more to identify that gap, that go-between those that have not and those that have much. There needs to be a go-between because that represents a step to get to your aspirations. And if you erode that, well, we can talk about that further. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here sitting with Obi Roberts and really chopping it down and really diving into it. And I hope you send me your text. Please do 422-4796, 422-4796. This is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the conversation. We're going to dive deeper into it and talk about some things because it seems to me that he was extremely conscious during this particular time. It seems to me that he was conscious about what was happening in the environment because most 14, 12, 9, 10, 15-year-old children are not necessarily looking at these things. They play and they shooting marbles outside, playing top, so forth and so on. But I just feel as though there was an inundation. There were so many persons around that something had to kind of rub off on him. We're going to find out more about that after we take this break, guys. 96.9 FM Radio, Howard Grant with the Foundation. Be right back after this.
Foundation. Foundation.
Fidelity, we're good for you. With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches. Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Ron's Electric Motors, they repair and rewind all major brands of electric motors, including water pumps, generators and the generator's back end, welding machines, electric lifts, air compressors, battery chargers, and more. They're equipped to handle up to 850 kilowatts and rewind up to 450 horsepower motors. They're conveniently located on the corner of Wolf and Clarence Roads and are open weekdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturdays till noon. They offer 24 hours emergency assistance. You can reach them at 242-356-0249.
242 Day, February 24th. It's 242 Day. Proud to be Bahamian. Represent your Bahamian pride on 242 Day. Wear your national flag colors or Bahamian prints. Enjoy delicious Bahamian dishes, break and scrape with Bahamian music, art, and entertainment all day long. Be sure to post those photos with hashtag 242 Day, hashtag Celebrate Bahamas. Friday, February 24th. Check the calendar, cause it's 242 Day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM Radio, Howard Grant and your company, The Foundation, really being able to have a good conversation today and chopping it down with none other than my very good friend, Obi Roberts. Now, Howard, why you say very good friend? I know these people a long time. We've been talking. And what these people just tell me, in the interim, in the break, we's good friend because I just keep it to my chest. Amen. So I'm very happy to do that today, ladies and gentlemen. In the studio with me is none other than Obi Roberts, and we're taking things a little different today. We couldn't get Bradley Roberts because he's gone on. But I wanted to be able to speak with one of the persons who was a part of these things or moved towards leadership in one way or the other over the years. And I said, who better person to be able to have sit with us and really have a good conversation about what he would have seen during that time, other than a person in our age bracket who would have sat at the feet of his father. And so that's Obi Roberts. And so, Obi, we've gone through these things, and I wanted to ask you something, right? I wanted to get to this. Let's just dive to the meat and potatoes because we got a lot of conversation to kind of get through. Now, one of the things that kind of popped out to me at the top of the conversation, you said that many of the persons were nation builders. I wrote that down. And when I heard you say that, it immediately took us back to what the conversation is about. The conversation is about really being able to contrast our current position and compare it to yesteryear when the vision was cast for the country. In 64, yesterday, we were having a good conversation with George Smith, started to talk about 64 being Constitution Day. And they was the initial reading of the Constitution of the Bahamas in 1964. 1973 is when we had independence. And the idea that existed during that time and when the Union Jack fell and the Bahamian flag rose and the different spirit that took over the people, the spirit and the idea of independence that empowered the people to go home and declare to their children, you ain't got to do this no more, baby. We could be more than this, baby. It's PLP all the way. This sort of an idea that was spilt into the ears, into the hearts of the Bahamian children. Okay.
You are correct.
The men and women of that time who fought to be able to unite, despite their egos, despite their indifference, despite Paul Adderley's aspiration, despite A.D. Hanna's capability and articulation, despite Pop Simonet and all these other persons, Roland Simonet, all these persons who had aspirations to move towards leadership, this is where we were. And there was a unifying idea that says, we have to work together to get this thing out. That vision that was cast, everyone captured that, from the northern part of the Bahamas down to the southern. Everyone was on board with being able to do that. Things change over the years.
Yeah, but
Talk to me about that. Things change over the years because if you could contrast the fact and say that there are many persons with nation builders, what are we seeing today? Obi, talk to me.
okay. From then, in terms of my observation as a little boy, some of the things that was said and then some of the things that were done, particularly the approach of Bahamianization. I've been speaking to my parents, both my mother and my father, when they spoke about the joy of 1973, the approach of becoming an independent nation, that it was total exuberance and excitement, something that they'd never experienced before, that they'll be recognized as Bahamians and no longer as British subjects. And so it was welcomed by open arms. And remember now, the 1972 general elections was primarily a vote for independence or a vote for or against it. So the PLP won by overwhelming numbers in 1972. So this was basically, listen, you gave us a mandate, approval to pursue independence. So the majority of the country at large was in full support of it, couldn't wait for it. Bahamianization was one of the things of putting Bahamians first. Many Bahamians prior to 67 felt disenfranchised in their country in which they did not have a say, a voice, or being recognized or having the dignity to live in quality living conditions or work where they wanted to work. These are just simple things. I could touch on a whole lot of them, but we don't have a lot of time, even though we have 2 hours. But people wanted to see progress. They wanted to establish a future for themselves and for their children and grandchildren that were unborn. So they wanted to see opportunities, and they saw this taking place. They never saw, as much as people may not want to talk about it, they never saw black people, black men or women in leadership. Now you have a black ran government, persons making decisions for the best interests of the Bahamian people. People fail to realize in 1967 when they came in, Sir Lyndon and the first PLP government gave out a lot of scholarships. You had in the civil service a lot of non-Bahamians that were working those jobs. Now you have Bahamians who have benefited from it, from those educational opportunities, who are in the police force, who in the customs, who in immigration, in different aspects like that. So you had Bahamians playing intricate roles, not only just in politics, but in the civil society in terms of being civil servants in our country. Business opportunities, educational opportunities, where persons will get allowed to go off to school, get scholarships, come back and contribute. At the 50th anniversary of the Sunshine Group, we had something at the University of the Bahamas, and Sir Franklin spoke, and he made an interesting reference. I can't remember the name of the gentleman, but he said a person who went to the same school as him graduated 3 years ahead of him. CPA. Prior to 67, he could not get a job as a CPA in this country. After 67, Sir Franklin came back, he obtained his becoming a certified public accountant, chartered accountant. He could have found a job in many different companies. What was the difference? 1967 and the opportunities for the majority of Bahamians. People always consist of that 1967 was a PLP event. No, it was an event for majority of the Bahamians, both black and white, because persons had an opportunity to decide their fate under a new government that gave opportunities for the voice of the voiceless.
You know, I traveling with you, and I like this. I really do. And I'm kind of a student of history. I like to sit at the feet of these guys and listen to these conversations. Now, I did some studies on Bahamianization. I did. I went over to the University of the Bahamas to be able to find out as much as I possibly can. I wanted to write a book on this. I really did. And the only thing that I can find written about Bahamianization is an article that was done by Franklin Wilson. That's it. There's one article. The social hubbub and the to-do that we have about Bahamianization, in my view, is only a marketing ploy, an idea to get everyone on course. Whilst the concept was absolutely wonderful, it was nothing that was shrined into history, into law, into this particular concept that the Bahamian people could take home as a tangible example of what can happen once we commit ourselves to these things. Everyone talks about how A.D. Hanna had done this wonderful thing and came up with this great concept, but nothing, nowhere I could find it. And anybody out there, if you could be able to send it to me, you know the numbers, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or text me, 422-4796. Now, I only say that to say, I agree with you that the concept and idea of Bahamianization, that the Bahamian people accepted, the spirit of it, the idea of independence, opportunity, and the idea of self-actualization of some sort, moving towards that was a wonderful thing. But the question that I have for you is this. The casual approach and being able to deal with these things, the campaigning concept and the feel that we put out there, is the PLP, this administration, prepared to solidify some of these things to be able to etch it in law and ensure that we could be able to find ourselves in a better position?
You want me to tell you something? The Progressive Liberal Party has been the architects for the modern day Bahamas. Many of the things that we enjoy today,
I agree,
came from 67 and above. To our present day. And remember now, even though certain things had began in 67, there's still a lot of work that is left to be done. We achieved so many different things, but one of the things that is still unrealized in our country in great numbers or significant numbers is the economic empowerment and opportunities for many Bahamians. All right? Because you look at it in terms of, okay, in our country, you have persons who look at the benefits that are extended to non-Bahamians who come into the country and come with investment opportunities and ideas. And the red carpet treatment is rolled out for them. And then you have some Bahamians who have very good business sound ideas, very sound business plan.
And they get rejected.
And exactly. And the only thing they're asking for is capital.
That's it.
Capital.
That's it.
Okay, but are routinely denied. And so the frustration starts to build in the country. All right, is this a country for Bahamians, or is it a country for non-Bahamians who come in, sometimes with a different hue or a different slang, that they're given preferential treatment? And so this is where you have to have your people to have a major stake in the game in our country in terms of its economics. Otherwise, non-Bahamians are going to control a major economic piece of our country. For instance, like I said, with tourism, we don't own many of the hotels. The major hotels are owned by non-Bahamians. Now, they create employment. But if you ask the average Bahamian what they would like to be owners in their own country as well. But this is the thing. You can't just be willing to be given the opportunity. You have to prepare for it as well.
I agree with you.
And present a proper plan that person will have the confidence and say, okay, fine, this was going to be done for you. All right, in that regard. And this is as a country, this is what you do for your Bahamians. Because the average Bahamian right now, say in their 20s, depending on their current predicament, whether they're educated or not, will look for employment. In their 30s, they have children, they're married, then they want to transition to become entrepreneurs. So they want to diversify their revenue streams, bring in monies for themselves and their family. In their 40s, they want to take that entrepreneurial decision to another level, expand and become a business owner of significant involvement in the country. But, and this is the thing I always explain in persons, it's easy for you to obtain that success if you work with a collective, not as an individual. Very few persons obtain success on their own as individuals. And in a country in which we live in right now that is very competitive, all right, which is very competitive, I encourage persons to pool their resources, be like-minded, decide which business you want to get into, that you want to invest in, and then work its course. I will revert back to an aspect with my father's group, the Sunshine Boys. Many people look at 50 years and look at the finished product with them, but didn't realize the bumps in the roads that they went through. Sometimes he told me, he said, son, a few times we almost sank. We almost went under, but we remained committed to one another, and it was a commitment in one another that kept them together, and they persevered over a period of time.
Obi, use my guy. And I want to have a transparent conversation for you for more than one reason. I want to be able to set the record straight historically, because there is several conversations that happen. There's a conversation that happens on traditional media where you present pleasantries. When I don't mean you, I mean people. Where people have to be able to be politically correct and say the right thing in this particular space. But there's another conversation that happens in the underbelly of society, and that is etched on the walls and hearts of a great deal of people, especially the grassroots people. So I want to have a couple of things I want to be able to interject here. And while you start to talk about entrepreneurialism and moving towards those particular things and opportunities that could exist in that space, and our governments providing opportunities to empower, so forth and so on, the PLP has for a very long time been that organization.
Yes.
The PLP has been the organization foundationally that if you need a house, you never had a house. You could go get your house, right?
Again, my friend.
If you need a job, you ain't educated, you come from this particular space, go talk to your MP. The MP could set you up something. Some people I know, unqualified, been working for 25 years and been able to take care of their family, so forth and so on. And they all attribute these, a great deal of people attribute this to the Progressive Liberal Party, right? And they will tell you, you don't care what they say to you. It's PLP all the way, right? It's almost like a Fred Mitchell voice note. Today, it's PLP all the way, right? So, but the fact is that as time progresses, as we feel our economic crunch globally, and whilst we have a great deal of conversation about creativity and innovation, this administration, most recently, and the former administration, and even before that, introduced the concept of being creative and innovative, especially under the former Prime Minister, Perry Gladstone Christie. But the truth of the matter is this. Let's just shoot straight. Every single one, though they're not denying you of an opportunity to be able to access funds, they've made it so difficult. The hurdles that the average man has to go through to be able to access funding, significant funding, to be able to fund his dreams, aspirations, so forth and so on, has become so difficult that they just kind of throw their hands up in the air.
Agree.
They throw their hands up in the air. And so the question that I have for you is that you and I see this. We can see this, right? And we know where we are economically. We know where we are from a numeric standpoint in terms of how much Bahamians are here. We know that we are on the cusp of being able to identify how we can rectify this to strengthen our economy. We're looking in the papers today, dead in the water, government kills opposition bill for immigration committee. The cabinet reconvenes Shantytown task force. You can look all over the place that we know where we are right now. How is this administration seeking to be able to undergird the Bahamians with those aspirations that you talk about?
Well, okay, Howard. A lot of our ideas, I mean, we have some new ideas in our blueprint for change. And then remember now, the last time we were in office, we also had a national development plan that was very futuristic for 25 years. And so we're going to look to also bring those matters back to surface because they were shelved under the last administration. But you mentioned in terms of opportunities being accessible to funding and the red tape that many Bahamians experience. And that is something that our Prime Minister alluded to, in making opportunities for our people, giving them an opportunity to become successful in the opportunity, access to funding. And one of them that you have the Bahamas Development Bank that's chaired by Senator Quentin Lightburn, which they have been doing a very good job, to my understanding, of providing funding for small businesses in that regard once you meet the criteria. Not just walk up that way and say, look here, I want X amount for this particular business opportunity. But there are avenues for persons to pursue that to obtain their funding. And to my understanding that they have made them reasonably, I wouldn't say easy, but manageable for you to obtain funding once you meet the criteria. Now, you asked me in terms of this PLP government. One of the things that we wanted to continue on from our rich foundation of 70 years. Come November of this year, we'd be 70 years. It's always been, the person's always identified as a socialist party, as you alluded to, of giving the average man, the small man, an opportunity to excel. And that is one of the principles that our leader, Philip Ray Davis, made.
That's your foundation now.
That's always been our foundation.
Yeah, but some things have changed over the years. After 87, with the introduction of what we've seen with 1992 and the introduction of the Sunshine Boys and these particular concepts, the world started to change. And when the world started to change, everyone started to hunker down on funds. The crack epidemic was right there, as at the thick of things. Mm-hmm. And the PLP shifted over the years. 2000, when the PLP came back in 2002, there was a great expectation for you to do a great deal of things. But you couldn't, because the world didn't afford us opportunities for those things.
That PLP government did a lot of great things, Howard. Remember, Howard, okay? That PLP government was one of the first governments in a long time to register surplus when we completed our 5 years before we lost in 2007. Mm-hmm. Mr. Christie's government, remember now, they implemented, that was the first stage of NHI. That is a normal, giving the average Bahamian accessibility to health, the healthcare.
So you believe that this concept and idea of a socialist party still exists within the organization?
That's who we are.
You're still to get.
That is who. Hold on.
Or we can chop that down.
No, but I'm saying to you, that is who we are. I'm not saying that previous governments, PLP governments, I wouldn't say we deviated from it, but we had some issues that led to problems that led to us being not elected as the government.
There's a decency coming out.
No, because I'll say this to you, but our foundation has always been to advance to the small man. All right? But we've always tell our members of parliament and members in our party to stick to the foundation of whence we came from. And if you don't do that, the people who elected you, who voted you in, will vote you out. And as simple as that, Howard.
Obi, I like this conversation. You know you was my guy. I tell you that. I always enjoy talking politics with you because I feel like we are stone throw away. I know you may be a couple of years older than me, but we're stone throw away. And the different perspectives that we have. I'm from the family of islands. I'm from Grand Bahama, 8 Mile Rock. So I see things a little different than, those persons who would have been in the thick of it here in the city of Nassau. But we are all sharing this one Bahamas together.
You're correct.
And we have a desire to be able to see us move forward, upward, onward, together. That's just just what it is. And so when I have these conversations, I always want to have it from a nationalist perspective. And I always view, and a lot of people being different with me, I believe that we have been birthed, this country, for the 70 years that we've enjoyed.
50 years.
Watch me. From the 70 years that we have had the PLP in existence, and the 50 years that we've enjoyed independence, many of us can say that the independence that we seek, that we dream of, that we envision was birthed out of the PLP, right? That we could say that we are, by default, many of us, PLP, because that's where our aspirations was even introduced to us, from the PLP, the opportunities that was existed there. But things have changed. And I want to know whether or not the next 50 years, will the next 50 years, based upon your proximity in politics, based upon the landscape that exists out there, based upon the hope and the ideas that exist in the minds and hearts of young people, will we ever realign with the vision that was cast for us in 73? The vision that was spilled into our heirs in 67. The vision that was trapped in my DNA coming out in 81. The idea of liberation and independence. We got to talk about that. And I got to take this last commercial break and be back, guys. I see your telephone calls. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, and 422-4796. We're going to take this commercial break and be back after news and then get back into the conversation right after that. Thanks so much. We'll be right back.
Foundation. The foundation. The foundation.
It's that time of year again, and Rev wants to send you and the guests to Portland for the NBA VIP All Access Experience. Rev customers can enter to win an all-expense-paid trip for two to see the Boston Celtics and the LA Clippers take on the Portland Trail Blazers March 14th to March 20th. Sign up or upgrade to Rev Trail Plus today to enter to win the NBA VIP All Access Experience to Portland. Rev, made for the game.
Fidelity, we're good for you. Whether your business is in store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Guardian Radio and the Foundation are on the move.
Bahamas, this one's for you.
SBT, Small Business Thursdays. Every Thursday, the Foundation with Howard Grant will highlight small businesses throughout the country, far and wide. Your products, services, prices, and personality. We want to hear it all. Get your 30 or 60-second advertisement heard on air at a fraction of the cost. We here at the Foundation understand the times and don't want you to be left behind. With Guardian Radio, you reach your specific demographic, and it is unmatched.
We reach thousands daily.
Get your products off the shelf and your services in their hearts. Small Business Thursdays with the Foundation, only on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. For more information, call 302-2300 or the Help Me Howard line at 827-0111. SBT. Small Business Thursdays. Get your business moving today.
With so so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
Alive is rewarding its prepaid and postpaid customers because you deserve it. Become an Alive prepaid customer and get cash back in your wallet. Or switch to Alive postpaid and earn monthly credit and data so you never have to pay your bill in full again. Download the My Alive app and get rewards today. Alive. Believe in best.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation. The foundation. 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 The foundation. The foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM radio. Howard Grant and your company, The Foundation, on this beautiful Tuesday, February 21st, being able to chop it down. Now, we're having good conversation. If you didn't tune in for the first hour, we went down memory lane just a little bit. And, you know, I told him just now, I said it's very difficult to have a conversation with you about yesteryear because I know that you are ever present right now in the thick of politics. And I'd like to be able to contrast where we were to where we are. In the studio with me today is none other than Obi Roberts, being able to talk to us about the memory of his father. And Obi, I got a lot of texts here, man. Listen, let's shoot straight and talk about these things. We're getting back to it, getting to the core of the things. And the first thing that people are saying is, Howard, hopefully you ain't don't try to avoid this question now. This is what they say. Hopefully you're not going to avoid the question, but would still like to know how Bradley Roberts ended up in the UBP. So a lot of persons, watch me, and this is what we're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, I again have to shoot straight with you because with my aspirations, my former aspirations, let me be decent, right? With my former aspirations to move towards politics in this country, I did a great deal of studies. I was in UB Library every day, reading more and more, ingesting as much as I possibly can. I sat down at the foot of these older men at Arawak Key and other places, wherever they was, just to be able to sit in their presence to find out about the history of the country. And the more and more studies I did, the deeper I digged to find out about this country, every time I look in the books and whatnot, I would emerge and say, my God, the party that you should join is the PLP. But as soon as I lift my head from the books and I have a conversation with what exists locally in our communities, the PLP has this stench, this stain of perceived corruption on it that stems all the way back from, I want to say, 82. And so I want to talk to you about that. But I also want to talk to you about, because history has a way of being able to tell a particular story based upon what's written and tell another story based upon what's said. And sometimes, especially for a great deal of us as black folk who may not necessarily read, sometimes these stories that are told, that are manipulated and changed from person to person, has a greater impact and effect on your organization as opposed to what's being said. So talk to us about it. Was your father attached to the UBP?
No, not at all. Howard, I've heard this over and over. People would make comments and jests and chuckle and everything else. No, I had a very good conversation about him. He laughed about it all the time. That is something that you have the members of the Free National Movement always want to paint him as that, as he continued to rise throughout the political ranks of the party. No. Let me make it be clear. When he was a teenager, he worked for a UBP business that was owned by the UBP. And back then, they were the only businesses that were owned in the country in large amounts were owned by the UBP. So you had persons who tried to paint that picture of him in that regard, but no, not at all.
Mm-hmm. Now let's get to the second part. And I said this to George Smith, having a conversation with him yesterday. The introduction of drugs, cocaine, into the country, the movement, the transshipment position that we are in, and I know you guys are going to start calling 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or hit me up on the text 422-4796. The transshipment position. And you know what's crazy is I wrote it down. I was supposed to kind of attack it or really be able to approach it yesterday and really being and having a conversation with George, is that we've always been a transshipment. We've always been in this kind of a transitional position to get people from one space to another, whether that was bootlegging, whether that was rum, and whether that now is with illegal migration, with persons being able to come from the South and using this as a hub to get to America. We've always been in this kind of a space. But the PLP has this view, and I think it's kind of weird, but the view has been projected on the PLP in yesteryear from 82, maybe even earlier than 82, right? To say that this is a corrupt organization. When Paradise Lost came out and, you know, the idea that existed when the media said something, the American media, my God, that is gospel. And, you know, whilst former Prime Minister Lyndon Pinland did a wonderful job in being able to defend his position and defend the United States, defend the Bahamas, the fact of the matter is that stain has yet to leave, not the country, but the Progressive Labour Party.
Howard, to answer your question, one of the things I in my studies over the years in terms of political observation, one of the things I give the Free National Movement a great deal of credit for is their ability, their public relations, to craft a narrative. And one of the Achilles heels that the Progressive Labour Party have is our inability to defend that nonsense, like the narrative now that you see that is trying to be spun out that way. And it's interesting when I saw something floating around social media a couple of weeks ago indicating that Philip Brave Davis, or I say call it the chief, is a thief. That was being used in 82, 83, 84 with Linden.
When you see it rhyming like that, you know only old fellas put that together.
And so it's a matter of all this is just being recycled, you know.
Yeah, I know.
All right, because remember now, going into 1992, Hans in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
Came back 10 years later, Hans in the cookie jar. Yeah. And it's amazing. But when you take a look, Howard, of persons involved in corruption, take a look at what transpired under the last Free National Movement government. Okay? You talk about the matters of persons with the 3 members of parliament, all right, who were taken before the courts. You had former cabinet ministers who were involved in speaking to the person of the witness in the case in that regard, falsified phone records in that regard, that to reflect something else and not the truth. All right, you have a then former cabinet minister admitting that the prime minister contacted him while he was away in regards of obtaining a contract for a certain building, a certain mall, all right, and how they was going to go about it. But yet, Howard, they want to create this narrative that one party is corrupt.
Obi, I am not trying to
I talk
the
about
blue
you.
ribbon of corruption of any political organization.
No, but see, the thing about it is this. But our party and the Bahamian people, sometimes we have short memories, Howard, that we forget what happens in our country over the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years. For me, I have a very good memory. And so I've seen this nonsense portrayed that the PLP is filled with thieves and everything else, and I could go way back on some of the things that transpired.
But the PLP has done nothing to
and
diminish,
now,
abolish,
and I've
reject.
And I've always said this. if you do not tell your story, someone
Somebody
else
can tell it for you.
They can tell it for you, and not the way it ought to be told, the truth and everything else. So you have to spin the narrative and everything else. Even now, you hear all of this hoopla and nonsense with immigration, that nothing is transpiring under this government with immigration, and which primarily what we've seen over the last few weeks. Large numbers of repatriation. We had a major
4,000 some over the last year.
that was a record.
Yeah.
In 2020, that's a record in any year for the Bahamas in terms of repatriation. But also we're seeing consistency with it, and what the government is doing is being consistent with the repatriation process. A major ruling in the courts with the ruling of the demolition of shanty houses. That is huge in terms of addressing and stemming some of our immigration crisis of them being held in these subpar structures and everything else. The Bahamian people are seeing this, but what they want to see is consistency from the government. You're going to start it, just be consistent with it, and we have to educate the Bahamian people. Keep advancing what the government is doing, update them what is going on. Otherwise, you're going to have people out there spinning a narrative of untruth of what is taking place in the country. Just stay engaged. The biggest thing is public relations, Once you are consistent in your communication with the Bahamian people and they could see it and touch it and understand it, no one else could come and say anything different to them. And that's all it is in terms of, and that has been our Achilles heel for quite some time. Just our public relations are being consistent.
I feel like I agree with you. And this is one of the things that I've seen from, when you would have had your defeat in 2017. And the PLP sort of dived into itself, and you guys identify how to be able to fix some things. You went at your constitution. You sort of dealt with that.
Fact finding. We ran.
This is your fact finding mission.
We went round the country, spoke to many of our delegates and stalwart counselors and Bahamians alike in different islands to understand where we went wrong. Mm-hmm. And we had an idea, but we wanted to hear it from us now. We took a lot of blows.
And you also had your certification for aspirants.
Right.
You had all these things. I thought it was good. But what I did not see is what you speak of today. Being able to, because that is one of the major issues that you continue to grapple with in the PLP. This generation, younger people and people younger than me, 40 years and younger, are still, we're still sullied by the idea that this political organization is a corrupt organization based upon what our forefathers would have said to us.
All right.
So 1973 was the time of independence for black people in our country. We celebrated that. The Union Jack fell, the Bahamian flag rose. But in 1992, for younger people, my mother's age and younger at that time, was the celebration of separation from the Progressive Liberal Party based upon the perceived corruption that existed in the organization that no one dared to touch during that time. It might not necessarily been so, And the truth of the matter is that it is impossible for your constitution, any constitution, if it was set within decency and order, any constitution to be corrupt.
You're correct.
It may be one or two people in your organization, these bad apples, but for the entire organization to be labeled as corrupt and the PLP sit back and say, well, we can just wait until this one breeze over. It ain't breeze over yet.
Howard, it's amazing, right? Me and some of my friends, a whole gang of us, and payments alike, all of us went to the same school. Primary school, high school, you went to college or whatever, you work at the same place. One go to PLP corrupt, the other one go left, half of them not corrupt. And it's a bunch of nonsense. And I've told persons come to me and tell me, say, well, Obi, how come you're a part of the corrupt party? So listen, cut that nonsense out.
Got it.
The PLP are the modern day architects of the country. How we could be corrupt, but also are the shakers and framers of this country and many things that we are experiencing today.
Yes.
I said, and I agree with you, Howard. And like I said, we must defend the position at every single aspect because
traditional politics said, just let it go. That's what our mothers would have said. Child, just let it go. Jesus can deal with that.
But if you say it long enough, people are going to believe it.
That's what happened in Moby. Talk to me.
But, under this government, our public relations has been very sound and been very consistent coming out of the office of the Prime Minister, staying engaged with the people and keeping our message that it resonates with the Bahamian public. That is very important. Now, we have to continue on to indicate, listen to me, that nonsense of the PLP being corrupt is a bunch of foolishness. Like I said now, I hear this nonsense of out there being circulated about our leader and the party. I asked him what corrupt actions have transpired under this particular government. None. None. Now, has things progressed as quickly as we want in certain areas? Maybe not. But we are making progress in different areas. I highlighted with immigration what is transpiring right now. And it's a work in progress, and we have to continue on being consistent and getting the job done. Now, with that is a very painful process because you have people who migrated here. They came here illegally. We cannot reward persons who come here illegally and keep them here. They got to abide by our country's rules and laws because we can't do that in their country. We can't go to the United States and do it. Respect our laws. I can recall in 2014, similar circumstances took place. The then PLP government, Minister Fred Mitchell was the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration then, and the previous Prime Minister, Perry Christie, met with the Haitian Prime Minister, Marshal Sweet Mickey, on 2 occasions to ensure a smooth transition of informing persons who are here illegally from
I'm going to have
Haiti.
a whole show on that because I don't know why. And I see your calls keep coming through and dropping. What's going on with that? Right, guys, give me a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Hold on the line for 2 seconds because I just want to kind of get Obi to get his base out so we can really have a good conversation. 422-4796, you can be able to send us a text. I see the calls coming through. They ring for 3 times and they're going out, so please get out. Now, Obi, I want to have a good conversation about that because let's just read this. Ladies and gentlemen, the conversation started off about is good, decent daddy. Praise God, Big Bad Brad. But it's going to bleed into modern day positions to talk about the PLP today. And so, first thing, The Guardian, make sure you pick up your papers and check it out. Parliamentarians last night overwhelmingly voted against the formation of a select committee on immigration as requested by the opposition. The vote was 22 nays, 5 yeas. And 10 MPs were absent, including the Prime Minister, Brave Davis, and former Prime Minister, Hubert Minnis. Shortly before the vote, Davis informed the opposition that now is not the time for reports on immigration, but action. Okay.
I agree with the Prime Minister.
Read this. Let's go a little.
You know why, though? You know why that? You know
Let me
what
read a
happened
little
now?
piece more. Read a little piece more. Little piece more. I would like to think it was a genuine view of the opposition that a select committee would be an answer to resolving the issue that face us on irregular migration. They are entitled to have that view, but we think that our side, we have sufficiently satisfied that the appointment of a select committee to look into these matters again and continues to kick the can down the road and would not bring the results that we think can do. Now watch that. He goes on to that. Read the paper. But the fact of the matter is that in my personal view, this Howard Grant, watch me, Howard Grant, that's what CARICOM was. CARICOM was a conversation about issues that really mattered, whilst people yesterday dying in the road in Haiti, whilst people in Turks and Caicos dying in 5 Keys, whilst people getting shot here, whilst guns are moving about. These are relentless conversations to have about what needs to happen, and there's no action. Internally, we're seeing the exact same thing. So the question that I have is that Operation Secure. Let's talk about that. Jesus, I didn't want to do this today, ladies and gentlemen. I got over here, we can talk about it. I tell you, I didn't read the whole thing, right? So Operation Secure talks about, and he had all the heads behind him, right? All the heads of all the various...
Minister of National Security.
Minister of National Security.
You had Defense Force.
Defense Force.
And Minister of Immigration.
Immigration and Police Force, right? So I'm looking at it and I said, okay, well, this is a good front. But the fact of the matter is that I need to see more teeth on the ground. I need to see a layout plan of an actionable plan that says these are the steps we're going to take to rectify these particular issues. I agree with our Prime Minister that indicates that this is a Haitian issue and it needs to be resolved by Haitian. But why are we getting in it then? Talk to me, Obi. Why are we even having a conversation about them? The conversation should have been about guns and how to be able to rectify, because nobody in the Caribbean has produced guns. How so many guns get here in the Caribbean? These are conversations that we can be able to deal with. How are we going to deal with gun running? How are we going to deal with human trafficking? How are we going to deal with drugs? How are we going to deal with feeding, educating, employing, opportunities to be able to unify our nations as opposed to being able to deal with something on the surface? Talk to me about it.
Well, Howard, I've mentioned this many times. Gun smuggling is the new cocaine of the 21st century. As you had drug trafficking of illegal drugs from marijuana to cocaine in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The proliferation of arms smuggling is huge. We've seen it in the effect throughout the Caribbean, not only in the Bahamas. The amount of violent crimes through guns is throughout the Bahamas. I know it's interesting. We looked at countries like, for instance, Jamaica, that have the issues with many murders. But one of the countries over the years has led the Caribbean in murders, but they're not classified as being a member of the Caribbean. That's Puerto Rico, but they fall under America. But they don't report the amount of many violent incidents and crimes and murders that transpire in their country. But we do have a major problem because we are a developing country, like other members of the Caribbean. So we are having our challenges of defending our waters. And then, to be honest, we have some of our own people who are part of the problem, who are part of the smuggling into the country of those arms, whether it's done by the boats, and then some of our neighbors from the south. And Howard,
does Operation Secure have teeth? Or is it just gun busting? Talk to me. Let's be very clear. Does it have the type of teeth that's going to be able to be very clear, send a message to the shores of Haiti in the midst of the trial and tribulation that though we're going through what we're going through, we better live in Cape Haitian, we better live where all these things are, where we can find some refuge and solitude over there. Because if we go to the Bahamas, we're going to be met with significant problem. Does Operation Secure have those kind of teeth that sends a message to the Caribbean?
At this instance right now, yes, it does, but we'll have to see it over a longer, extended period of time with the results of captures of boats and also seizures of arms that are coming in, because this was something that I won't establish the time, but this is something, Operation Secure, that was something that was probably recently established under the Minister of National Security with the Prime Minister and Minister of Immigration. We have to see the longevity of it. And that's what I was saying with anything else, any initiative from the eyes of the Bahamian people, they just want to see consistency, and that's how they'll be able to determine whether it is a successful undertaking, which I'm forecasting that it will be. It has began very strongly with the repatriation aspects of it. Now we just have to, through intelligence, identify the vessels who may be bringing this in, or the persons responsible bringing it in. Time will tell, because this problem is not going to be nipped in the butt in a week's time or a month's time. All right. One of the things that we are, as an archipelago, we sit between the Southern Caribbean and the United States, and many arms are smuggled through the Bahamas to the United States. And you raise a very good point. No one in the Caribbean manufactures guns.
No.
The only countries I know manufactures guns is United States or Europe.
So why why? Okay, somebody sent me a text. Let me read the text. Hold on, Moby. Let me read the text. I found the text. I had a text earlier. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Hopefully this is... No. Anyway, I can look for the text. But the text says that, why is the world so gung-ho, and I abbreviated, why is the world so gung-ho on being able to save Haiti? Haiti has their own problems, we have our problems. Now, I want to take that a step further. My family and I just had an opportunity to be able to watch Wakanda Forever. Black Panther. And in Black Panther, if you haven't watched it, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you right now, Black Panther has taken, after the death of the king, if you watch this movie, after the death of the King T'Challa, King T'Challa had a son. Oh, if you didn't watch it, Jesus, Howard, what you saying? Calm down, go watch the thing, right? On HD now on your thing, right? So King T'Challa had a son, and his son was birthed in Haiti. I thought this was great, because Haitians need the support to find the strength within themselves. And if you could be able to emulate this idea, even in fictional worlds, then it could probably give you an actual strength to be able to move. So I thought that this was strategic. The entire world is seeking to bolster up and support Haiti in their particular positions. When we started the conversation, you said that this is not the first, second, third, fourth time that we've seen this come from Haiti. The fact of the matter is that it seems as though Haitians need to deal with their issues internally.
I agree with you with that.
You can't have the whole of CARICOM 44 here in the country about Haiti.
No, okay. I agree with you 100% for that. As you seek help for your country, you have to also demonstrate yourself that you're willing to put safeguards and implement policies to prevent some of these measures. But I've said this to persons as well, and you got to be mindful of this. Many persons come from Haiti to come here because the Bahamas sustains their economy through remittance. For persons who are not aware what remittance is, if persons come here illegally and they work and they obtain some money, they send their monies back through wire transfers to their country.
Absolutely.
Of monies that they never had before.
Absolutely.
Now, like I said, some of our problems with dealing with migration or legal migrants here is also self-inflicted. If people come here to work or can't find work, they will go elsewhere. They will go elsewhere to find it if they're in search for money. But we as Bahamians got to stand toe-to-toe with our government and our immigration and our law enforcement to help curb this problem that we have. It's not going to be a quick fix, but over a period of time and with consistency and commitment to it, we will see positive results. Eliminating it, I doubt we're going to be able to eliminate it in total, but if we can reduce it and discourage it in large numbers, that will be greatly effective for us right now.
Let me see if I can read one or two of these texts before we can get to a commercial break. It says, Howard, you don't seem to appreciate the great distinction between the characterization of the PLP by those in Grand Bahama versus the Nasuvians. Since Pinling's break or bend speech, the powers and power brokers in Freeport wanted to keep the PLP's policy and ideas out of Grand Bahama, and the Northerners were all raised on that anti-PLP propaganda. Let's take a telephone call. Call you on the line with us live. Go ahead. You're calling. I don't know what's wrong with the phone. Please, guys, if you can give me a call before we take a commercial break. Let me see if the telephones are working. Let me try this one right here. Call you on the line with us. Go ahead. Call you on the line with us. Go ahead. Jesus, something wrong with the phone. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Hit us up on the text line, 422-4796. Calling on the line with us. Go ahead. Hello? Jesus, something wrong with the phone.
Howard,
something wrong with the phone. Go ahead.
It's interesting what the person who text you about the philosophy or the ideologies between both parties in comparison to Nassau and also in Grand Bahama. And I have a lot of friends in Grand Bahama. One of the things I asked them, I said, why is so many people entrenched in the Free National Movement? Because I said in the last last Free National Movement governments, they have done nothing for Grand Bahama. In the last Hubert Ingram government, they had 3 cabinet ministers. You had Chicago Lang, Kenneth Russell, and I think it was
Nico.
And Nico Grant. They did nothing for Grand Bahama. Under Hubert Minnis, I think they had 5, all 5s of
and the Governor General.
And the Governor General, and they did nothing for the people in Grand Bahama. They came up with this tech hub nonsense there that lasted 12 months.
What you call it, nonsense?
Tech hub, that there's going to be the tech hub. You remember that?
You need to stop it over.
It only lasted 12. No, but Howard, I'm only stating facts. Didn't the first announcement close within 12 months?
Let me take it. Call you on the line with us live. Go ahead. Call you on the line with us live. Go ahead. Okay, so I can stop bothering me with the phone. Guys, let me take this quick commercial break and be right back. 96.9 FM radio, Guardian Radio with Howard Grant and the Foundation. Started off on a very good wicket down memory lane, but we got a very swift reality into the position that we're in today. We're in studio talking with none other than Obi Roberts, and really being able to have a very good conversation. We're going to be right back after this.
The Foundation.
Introducing the new Tortilla Lime Crunch Chicken Sandwich from Wendy's. And I have a little bit of everything: avocado, taco mayo, pickles, and crunchy tortillas on top of a delicious breaded chicken fillet. Yes, try it and add our all-new Dave's Craft lemonade to your combo. Wendy's, different inside and out.
Fidelity.
whether your business is in store, on the go, or both. Let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
J.S. Johnson Insurance agents are the best. Reliable service, we've been on the scene, protecting since 1919. J.S. Johnson Insurance has the test. You're always covering me. J.S. Johnson Insurance, peace of mind.
University of the Bahamas is where greatness grows. Apply now to join a community of strong learners and leaders. The deadline to apply for undergraduate admissions has been extended to Tuesday, 28th of February, 2023. The online application process is easy. Simply visit www.ub.edu.bs and click on Apply Now. You can also browse our many academic programs, and if you have questions, email admissions@ub.edu.bs. University of the Bahamas, preparing students for better lives in a dynamic global society.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Foundation. Foundation. The foundation. The foundation. Foundation. The foundation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, 96.9 FM radio here with Howard Grant on The Foundation. I'm speaking with my very good friend, my good, decent PLP friend right here, Obi Roberts, in the studio with me, being able to chop it down. And we're having, I believe that we're having a very good conversation. I would like to hear from you all. Do we have an issue with the lines? Apparently so. Okay. We apologize about that, ladies and gentlemen. I know that you're trying to get in. I will read your text and be able to get that information in there for you. I am so sorry about that today. We're going to do our best to be able to get that done. But if you want to send a text, please do so at 422-4796, 422-4796. And I don't know if you're sending me anything at 827-0111. Let me read one or two of these texts, Obi. It says, great show as usual. Ask your guests, how come the PLP, in my opinion, drifted away from their foundation and also using the words we for the poor or grassroots people, finally taking a bad turn on the PLP because now the people lean on the government for everything.
All right. I would say this to respond to the text there. Our philosophy remains the same. Have we made some errors in the past? Yes, we have. And this is one thing under this particular government led by Philip Brave Davis, is to reestablish ourselves and back to our foundational base. And that's why we were so successful at the polls of being reelected. But we have to be consistent in staying engaged with our persons in those constituencies, and that's every constituency. Being engaged, trying to help people as best you can, and also implement your plan. Now, Howard, these are very challenging times because right now everyone is looking for economic opportunities, employment opportunities, and there's only so much that you could give at this particular time as this government continues to grow and progress and make progressive steps. So we just ask persons to also bear in mind and be somewhat patient, and that's hard to be patient when you went through so much hardship prior to COVID, and then the pandemic that made matters even worse. The collapse of our economy in terms of when many persons were home based on the pandemic itself. So but the members of parliament in those constituencies just got to stay in touch and stay in touch with their base in their constituencies. and be direct and honest and accessible to the people, and basically convey to them that things will get better. Implement your plan, and just over a period of time, Howard, that we will try to help as much people as best as we can.
For both political organizations, the base has kind of shrinked because if we look at the statistics, if I'm correct, the PLP won by a majority of 36%. That means that 60,000 some people did not even come out to
You are
vote.
correct.
Point blank.
You are correct.
Point blank. So that means that your base, that base that you enjoyed, one time ago we would have said that there was at least 40% PLP, 40% FNM, and that kind of an indifference, that 20% is what you were playing for. That's would have been the DNA share or these fringe organization shares. But the truth is that your 40% has shrunk significantly. So whilst we're talking about that base, the question that I have is that what do we do to get people involved? The entire show that I have here is about the fact that we've lost community and we've lost hope. And that hope doesn't just exist within the hope of the political organizations. It's the hope of the church. It's the hope in the Constitution. It's the hope in the political organization. It's the hope that I can have a better future. And a lot of young children are either looking to leave the country entirely or fall within themselves, and they're imploding. What is your organization doing to kind of rectify that or identify that? Well, and Obi, let me take it 2 steps further. I've said to you before, and on the break we talked about this, that the architects of the country has done a great deal in building structures. So they build the buildings, they build the brick and mortar, they build all these things, the tangibles. But that generation could not see the brokenness in our young people today.
No.
And there is nothing, no organization and no one anywhere that is concerned about building the intangibles. That's the human spirit, the black man spirit in our country. What is being done about these particular things? Talk to me about it.
All right. Like I said to you early in the show, Howard, these are some unprecedented times. Some of the first hardships that this country has ever experienced in 50, 60 years. I would say probably just prior to 1967. So this environment is all new to Bahamian people in terms of the economic challenges that faced with right now. Like I alluded to, and what you mentioned a moment ago, you have to stay connected to your base. The PLP has always been a party that ran a strong ground campaign. That means being engaged with your people on the ground, staying connected with them. Your initiatives, in which I've seen through many of our members of parliament, in terms of various initiatives to stay in touch with the community. The only thing is that people are asking for right now is jobs, because many people are unemployed right now. And then alluded to contractual opportunities, or some people ask for educational opportunities in terms of that, as they're trying to improve their current situation right now. And so the government right now, the members of parliament in their various constituencies must stay engaged. And our message to the people in those communities, in those constituencies, that the party itself, the PLP government, is still the party for the people, still the party for the small man. And I don't hide that at all, that I'm a party of the grassroots. I'm very proud of that, and I always tell people to be proud of the PLP. I am never ashamed and never embarrassed to be a progressive party, because we have a strong foundation and history that we can look back over the last 70 years and be proud of, and is unmatched by any other political organization in this country's history. So we just have to navigate through these very, very turbulent times. And this ain't easy. It is not easy. The Harvest constituency have 5,000 people, and many of them come to you on a regular basis. You just got to be honest, consistent, and accessible to your people, that people will believe in what you're saying and be honest with them. You may not get it today. It may be next month. It may be 6 months from now. But be accessible, be honest, and implement your plans gradually. And people will respect you for that.
I want to touch that, but before we do that, let me read this text. It says, in October 2022, the Prime Minister said that we didn't have an immigration crisis. What changed so much that we have one now?
Well, Howard, you've seen many.
The text now. Go ahead.
Many things could happen in a matter of a week or 2 or 3 weeks. Many things could take place. We saw a massive influx. Did the problem today in Haiti existed in October 2022?
No.
Exactly. Okay?
Well, actually, it would have started with the death in July.
All right.
It started to kind of rumble to the surface.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is this, and just to respond to the texter primarily, things change fluidly right now, and particularly we've always had an immigration issue, but it basically reaches apex with all of the turmoil that has transpired in Haiti right now, or the intensity. I wouldn't say the apex; it intensified, and so with this right now. And many Bahamians are looking for answers. One of the things that the major concern was, because we dealt with this matter with the shanty towns before, we began it, it got halted, and now, thankfully, a ruling came down was in the most favorable for the government that we could begin that process and make the steps. But right now, Howard, everything is a work in progress right now.
Do you think that the
4,748
repatriations that happened, which is a record number for repatriations that happened last year?
I think just over 1,200 thus far.
Do you think in the first 8 weeks of this 2023, those persons would have come back? Talk to me, because we've seen some significant numbers come over.
There's a great possibility, because we've seen it before. We have seen it before.
This is bananas.
Yes. And so, and plus, it puts a strain on our resources. Those repatriation exercises are not cheap. And so, this is back to the question that you pose, or the comment you pose. When is Haiti going to take a stance and be a part of their solution, a part of their problem, and not just be reliant on other Caribbean nations and other nations around the world just coming to assist them?
I actually guess what the PLP did for the Grand Bahama under Perry Christie during his 2 terms.
Okay, well, I'll touch on this. With the last Christie government I alluded to, we, and this is interesting, knowing that Free National Movement, that's supposed to be Free National Movement country, we established portable water in eastern and western Grand Bahama. Do you remember that? All right. You also had the...
I don't know. I was here drinking this Nassau water. Talk to me. I was here.
All right.
We got a telephone call.
Oh.
Obi, let me take the telephone call.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been waiting for this. The telephone lines look like they're back up, guys. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Carly on the line with us live. Go ahead.
Yeah, Howard, I'm on the BTC line, so
Thank
you
you,
know
my brother.
what's going on.
What's happening?
But good afternoon to your guest. Good afternoon, Howard.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, my condolences, Obi, to your father. I actually sat next to him in the mall a couple of days before he died. He was in the Marathon Mall, sitting on the bench on a cell phone. He's a giant of a man. You know, he's well respected. But the thing is, right, Mr. Grant, is that concerning the immigration issue, right? I don't think we're looking at it in a holistic way. Is anybody, FNM or PLB, ever considered what CRN has proposed as far as the digitalization, since Howard posed the question of migrants returning, right? And so that is a model I would like to see, because then if they're returning, you should have a way to weed that out and pass stiffer penalties, because otherwise it'll just be a revolving door. So I live in the inner city and I'm on the ground. I'm always in the ground and I'm seeing the numbers. Listen to me, man. Listen to me. National security, immigration, they need to get it together. Right now, see, when you speak from experience, right, and I hear the people who live in in Ivory Towers or whatever, right, they don't know what's going on. You better last ride to the inner city, Obi.
I'm in there all the time, you know.
No, but no, man, they talking about mix and mingle and see and know. We ain't talking about passing with the AC up and... Listen, man.
No, man. Come on, man.
Obi.
Come on, man.
Obi. Hey, Obi, use the realist. Let me say that all that's come from the inner city. You know that, right?
Yeah.
All right, now, we know the inner city was Howard. We know the inner city. Howard mentioned, the inner city used to be clean. The yards well kept.
Right. Yes.
We are denying the influence of the migrants on the inner cities. We are denying it. This is why. You see, and the deculturization and the displacement and the violence. All right, Turks and Caicos. All right, let's forget what I was going to say. I have a case study. Turks and Caicos Island.
Okay.
Was a peaceful place, right? What happened to them in the last 15, 20 years? You see an increase of migrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden they have 77 to 100,000 per 100,000 for murder. They lead in the world, so they say. So why is it that we're denying ourselves that immigration or the influx of migrants, strangers coming into your town, don't have an impact on crime, or et cetera, when it actually leads to corruption as far as selling government documents, drug running, human smuggling with drug traffic, whatever, like Lincoln Maine give the whole chronology. Why is it that we're denying something that people can actually see with their own eyes? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But I got a joke for you, Obi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a young man, right, Howard? They could talk about Ping and all they want. Ping and my old man, you know, they was in, after my old man followed the PLB, but you know, the forces were up a little side. But Ping used to make me feel like proud as a young man.
Talk to me.
I haven't felt that for so long.
My God.
These weaklings, but the Ping could at least give them some gonads and show them how to deal with the international community. That same stance that when he spoke of the allegations against him and the country and all that, right? You see how he stood up, right?
Yes.
You know, now the thing is, I'm not saying that none of it was true, you know. And I heard you mention the fact about these cases about these people with corruption. You know, I'm an open-minded, street-wise, whatever, right? The fact that no evidence is found doesn't mean that none exists, you know.
Yeah.
That's what they want people to know. I just had a little...
No, I agree with you
had a little text
I agree
exchange with
that.
somebody who told me that the Bahamas... I don't know if they share that. They run this concept on this high school chat about this corrupt index data coming from some world, some entity, right? Why should I believe in something from a world place with data when I live in the ground in the Bahamas as an 18-year-old man? I remember coming out of school and the Commission of Inquiry was big time news. I used to read the newspaper. I can show you a picture of me 14 years old with the newspaper in 18 years old with the newspaper in front of me with a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform, Franco Harris on. So what I'm saying is, I remembered some of the intricacies and details of the Commission of Inquiry by nefarious activity by police officers, custom officers, et cetera, defense force, et cetera.
Yeah.
So why can't we just face the facts, right? Let me show you something. I don't be into all
I gotta
that.
go.
Once
We got a couple. I got a
you're
couple
not
more.
dealing with people, once you're not investigating people financially, then we're just wallowing around on corruption and wallowing around this immigration issue because we know the reason why people do what they do. Everything is for money. Howard, I can do you a favor. I have a friend in New York right now. I can let him call the Guardian and let him tell you what he did with immigration to get what he did. He's in New York,
Actually,
he can't touch him.
no, seriously. I tell you, the first 2 weeks of March, we're going to talk about corruption. We're going to talk about perceived and endemic corruption.
It's not hard to see corruption.
Send me his number.
But listen to me.
Send me his number.
Hold on, I'm going to put this thing out. The person who texts the government, the people depend on the government. You see, common sense is not common. Reciprocity, the government depends on the Bahamian people to pay taxes to pay them, you know. So what I'm saying is, if I'm paying immigration collectively, police and all these people, why is it that we can't demand they have a systematic protocol to impede immigration? Yeah. You're pulling over people in cars. You're not finding out if they have any status, but you're complaining about immigration. You're talking about repatriating a couple of people. Man, let's keep this thing going. Don't just start this, man. Just going to continue. The Bahamian people come first. So God bless no man curse. See no one better than nobody. But where we live is where we live. That's our garden. So we're supposed to be. That's how it is, man. Bless up.
Thank you, my brother. I do appreciate that. Let me take the next telephone call real quick before we get out of here. Calling on the line with us live. Go ahead. Calling on the line with us live. Go ahead. Say, Lord, Lord, are we also sick? I'm also sick of the FNM and the PLP. It's tit for tat. I'm sick of it, right? As a text says, good afternoon. Can the government pass laws in order to heavily fine companies and persons hiring illegal persons? Watch me, because this is what we got to get into. You got to come back and let's talk about this Operation Secure. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, the Prime Minister indicated that they're going to be recruiting for immigration, recruiting for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, police force, so forth and so on. So there's just going to be mass recruiting. And now they're asking, is the government going to pass laws to heavily fine the companies? The Prime Minister,
I surely hope so.
Watch me. He did not. I thought he was going to take this thing on head first. He was politically correct when indicating that those persons who engage the illegals in our country, we will deal with you. Let's shoot straight. If you're hiring illegals, we can take your company, we can take your license, we're going to fine you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Shoot straight with the people and let them know that you're going to suffer repercussions if you're hiring these people in our country. Mm-hmm. We've had my good friend Nanette Sands come on Morning Blend and being able to take on a position to speak about the fact that the reason why we're seeing such an explosion of immigration is because the construction industry hiring these people. So if we don't deal with this accordingly, then we're going to see it continue to expand. So we got to be able to do that. Let's see if we can take a telephone call. Calling on the line with us live. You got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
I want to address a point, and then I just want to address a point to Mr. Bostwick. I remember Mr. Bostwick on another talk
This
show.
Obi Roberts that'll be speaking with today.
I'm sorry, Mr. Roberts. And I remember him every time callers would call in and ask, where is Brave Davis? Why doesn't the candidate come to the Guardian to that particular show and really elucidate to the Bahamian people what he is all about, what his plans are for the Bahamian people, what his vision is for the Bahamian people. That didn't happen. And Mr. Roberts, you kept blocking for him. You kept, no, he's coming, and he never came. And I listened for 3 years for Brave Davis to come to that show to talk, and it never happened. And Mr. Bostwick knows what show I'm talking about. Thank you.
Why you keep saying Mr. Bostwick? You're mixing apples and oranges entirely, right?
I remember that was asked on a couple of occasions if Mr. Davis could have come to the talk show to speak. And the thing about it is
I asked you to.
Yes, in terms of that, it's just a matter of also Mr. Davis having enough time. But people also fail to realize that when Mr. Davis speaks in the House of Assembly, that's also a national address that he also speaks to his constituents. And then also on the campaign trail, when he spoke on many occasions on the PLP's plan, which is the blueprint for change, on some of the things which is the campaign pledge to the Bahamian people. But more people will probably want him on the show that when they call in, they want to have an question and answer dialogue with him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so let me read a couple more of these texts before we get out of here. We got a few minutes. This is great show as usual. Ask Obi how we can get him to join the Free National Movement. Tell him that we would trade minutes and some money. Tell him that we would trade minutes and some money just to make that trade happen. And tell him that we would throw in 1 year supply of KFC just for good measure. And after you tell him this, Howard, ask him if I can get a contract on the airport road. Listen, you're doing way too much today. You're doing way too much today. Obi, it has been a pleasure, my brother, to kind of do that. I want to let you know and kind of put you on alert that when we see sort of the rollout of the pronouncements etched into writing of Operation Secure, I'd like to have you back. I'd like to have you back to talk about it, because the truth is that I want to say this. I believe this administration didn't start off like this. I think you started off dealing with a lot of the low-hanging fruit, which I thought was a wise thing. I think the former Prime Minister, Hubert Minnis, would have dropped the ball. Dr. Minnis, he would have dropped the ball in many areas. And people kept crying out for a particular type of thing. He had already made pronouncements to the people and dropped the ball. The PLP came in and kind of picked up those low-hanging fruit. But since then, you've done what most political organizations have done. You've been reactive. And your reaction has, in my personal opinion, placed you in a position that you're running after the story, not being proactive and being able to craft the narrative to say that this is the direction that we're trying. So it seems as though you're chasing your tail, for lack of a better reference, in this particular instance. And I don't say that with any not negative notions attached to it. This is what we've seen from political organizations prior. We have seen too much reaction to these particular things. We need a more proactive approach to these
preventative
measures being able to take in place. So I wanted to kind of put that out there and find out more about, because this could also mean an uptick in unemployment. If we're in double digits right now, I think it's 14%. If you're going to open up the opportunities for persons to be able to get in immigration, to get in customs, to get in other places, to deal with what you're dealing with in Operation Secure, then this could be a good thing. So I want to know more about it as we go forward. I thank you, my brother, for being able to tune into that. And now, guys, please, I want you to remember that this Friday and every Friday, 242 Day, the 50th Independence Secretariat is encouraging you to wear your national colors, enjoy Bahamian dishes, participate in cultural activities, enjoy authentic Bahamian art and music, and show your Bahamian pride. Share your photos and videos using the hashtag 242Day, hashtag Celebrate Bahamas. Guys, we are in the thick of it and moving towards independence. Have a beautiful day. Tomorrow, we're going to have a conversation with some dual persons in there. I'm thinking that maybe called DeWitt and JJ. DeWitt and JJ, I hope you guys are on alert that we're going to be able to have that conversation tomorrow, because I think it's a lot of things that are happening to kind of chap it in there. Go ahead, Obi.
Howard, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to your show. It's always a pleasure. I would kindly accept the offer to come back on the show at any time that you wish to invite me. And just want to say to the general public, just give the New Day government a chance as they continue to go to work for the Bahamian people. And you can hold our feet to the fire and make us accountable in terms of many of our campaign pledges. I have tremendous faith and trust in our leadership of Philip Brave Davis and Chester Cooper as our Deputy Prime Minister, as we will navigate through these very turbulent times right now that we experience, that we will lead our country well.
Obi Roberts in the studio with us right here on the Foundation, Guardian Radio 96.9. Guys, stick and stay.